My crewmates generally got along, which is why I was so surprised to hear the tones of a disagreement as I headed toward the exit. Most of the crew were out getting food at the spaceport. What kind of arguing could be happening in the halls? One related to food, as it turned out. I heard the personnel door close right before I turned the corner. Once there, I found Kavli and Weo walking towards me. "What's up?" I asked, looking between the two pilots. They didn't look like they'd been arguing with each other. Kavli waved her blue frills diplomatically and started with, "Nothing, really." "Paint's food stinks," Weo interrupted, standing indignantly on tentacle tips. "Had to tell her to eat it outside the ship." "Oh," I said. "Why was that a big deal?" Weo curled a tentacle. "Search me. Apparently she was surprised none of us wanted that smell soaking into the air filters." Kavli looked apologetic. "Even with a sealed package, eating it only in her quarters, we'd smell it all the way down the hall. I'm familiar with that heat-seeker delicacy. It's almost a biohazard." I added, which probably hurt her feelings. Kavli winced. "Probably." "I'll tell her you're sorry but haven't changed your mind, shall I?" I suggested. I was about to go visit the food stores too. "Please," Kavli said with a nod, and flap of her head frills. Weo said, "Don't let her convince you the door to her quarters would contain the smell. Those doors are designed to not be airtight for safety reasons." "Righto," I agreed. They walked past and I headed for the door to the outside. I was already breathing shallowly, braced for stench. But the air outside was clean. Well, spaceport level clean, with tinges of exhaust and sun-warmed pavement. Other ships sat in their designated landing spots. Paint stood a few steps away from the door, holding a small plastic tub and looking sulky. She lashed her scaly tail and glared. "Hey," I said, though she was already talking over me. "They said it smelled bad," Paint exclaimed, in the aggrieved tones of someone whose favourite thing had been deeply slandered. "This is the best smell of all foods ever. I followed it across town." She waved the tub around, which was thankfully still sealed. "What is it?" I asked. "Geology cake," Paint told me. "I used to ask for it at every celebration back home. It's called that because of the layers." She held the tub with one hand, using the other to gesture in horizontal slices. "Made with perfectly ripe bitter fruit and fermented worm cream, plus a few other flavours that I forget. I was never the one to make it back home. I'd love to learn how, though some people would apparently have a problem with that." She huffed and turned a lizardly glare toward the closed door to the ship. "They say sorry for the offence," I told her. "And, you know, they probably like some foods that you think are gross too." "But it's my favourite," Paint said plaintively. She held the tub close like someone might try to take it away from her. "I'd eat it every day if I could. My parents never let us have enough. They said it was unhealthy to have too much." "Oh yeah, I've been there for sure," I said. "It feels like all the things that taste the best are the ones that are bad to eat too much of. Which makes sense, I guess, since probably every civilized species figures out what flavours they like, then maximizes them." Paint nodded. "You told me about that aisle of salty snack food in your home store." "Right. Salt tastes good because we need a certain amount to be healthy, and in nature it can be hard to find." I waved my own hands, warming to the subject. "But we're not in nature anymore, and we've made tons of delicious things with more salt in a meal than we need in 2 days. Such a problem to have." "It's unfair," Paint agreed. She looked sadly down at the tub. "This really is my favourite, though. That's important. Do you have a favourite food? Probably one of those toxic ones, right?" I laughed. "Chocolate is pretty darn tasty, I won't lie. I don't really have one single favourite food, since there are so many good ones. I usually just say pizza." Paint nodded, as if that was what she expected. "You told me about that. Every ingredient takes multiple stages of processing, and 2 of the most common ones will give most sentient species intestinal troubles." "Yeah, unfortunately," I admitted. "I didn't used to think bread stuff was strange at all until I got to space, to say nothing of cheese." Paint made a face and shook her head. "The less said about cheese, the better." "Did I tell you that some humans can't digest it properly either?" "Yes, which makes it all the more baffling that it's so popular in human spaces." I shrugged. "There are pills that you can take to help with lactose intolerance. It tastes good enough to be worth it." especially with all the other ingredients. Toxic ones, with blood-red sauce that causes organ failure. Not for everybody, I objected. Some people can eat tomatoes, just not everybody. I am not about to try, Paint said. She looked down at the tub again. I am going to eat this, though, no matter what those two brainless noses say. I didn't comment on the heat-seeker phrasing. I was curious. Before I go get my own food, can I smell it? Will it put me off eating altogether? Paint was delighted by this, and assured me that of course not. It was a lovely smell, the best around, etc., etc. I just nodded as she opened the tub. She held it out. There! Isn't that amazing? I only got a glimpse of beige frosting before getting nose-punched by an odour that was both sharp and rotten. I tried to keep a neutral expression as I stepped back, exhaling forcefully and hoping the stench wouldn't follow me. Not for me, I think. But it's so good, Paint repeated. Where's Captain Sunlight? She'll back me up. Clearly all of you just have inferior noses. Possibly, I allowed, breathing from my mouth. Ugh, I could taste it too. Wait, there's Eskin. They'll like it. Paint waved at the approaching cook/medic, who was also a small lizard person with apparently horrendous taste in cake. I tried to sound normal when I joked, they'll probably just caution you not to eat it all in one sitting. They better not. When Eskin got a little closer, I could see that they were carrying a bag that might have come from a food stall. When they got a little closer still, the wind changed, and I honestly almost threw up. What is that? I demanded, covering my nose. Eskin approached and sighed. I probably should have just eaten this back there, shouldn't I? The chairs are all full. I suggested, did you try waving that around and waiting? I suspect they would have cleared out pretty quickly. Paint just cocked her head curiously. What is it? It smells familiar. Eskin managed to look guilty. 3-month pneumonia. It's not the healthiest choice, I admit. Paint pointed. That's why it's so familiar. It was my cousin's favourite. 3-month what? I asked, certain I'd heard wrong. Pneumonia, confirmed our ship's medic. Whoever invented it got creative with the naming. I would have preferred something less ominous. Paint hurried to explain it, waving the lid of her own still open food around. It's knifewing lungs, filled with fermented greebies fat sauce. Eskin nodded. And slug garnish. Wow, I managed. That sounds special. It is. A rare treat. Eskin turned to Paint. Would you like some? Oh, no, thank you. I have my own food, Paint said politely, finally putting the lid back on. Also, I can't stand knifewing. Sorry. I made a rather gurgling laugh and pointed toward the edge of the spaceport. I think I see some empty tables over there. Maybe you two would like to eat and reminisce about parties and strong-smelling food. Paint perked up and followed my finger. Ow! Yay! Eskin gave me a knowing look. You're going to run off in the opposite direction, aren't you? I was already walking. I think I spy something promising way the heck over there. Paint headed for the tables. Enjoy your toxins! You as well, I said. I hope your biohazard is delicious.